Who's ready to get it poppin' on a Friday night as we're talking Crimson Tide football on the hottest show on the streets, the best form of Alabama football news, notes, and information? You know what that is. It's In My Own Words, the podcast with yours truly, your man, Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama Magazine, coming to you as always from Tuscaloosa, streaming this on YouTube. And speaking of YouTube, if you are new to the network channel and the brand, go ahead right now and smash that subscribe button. Hit that subscribe button right now and turn on your notifications so that you can have the best and alerts, updates, and coverage on your Crimson Tide. As always, the show bigger than yours truly. I got the man John Ivory doing what he does all the time, dropping that hot flavor in your ear. John, it's Friday. Thank goodness for it. Brother, how you feeling?
Man, feeling great, man. Roll Tide. We're about to turn up. It's Friday. Let's get it.
John Ivory already ready to go, ready to get this thing pumping. But speaking of Fridays, a little blast from the past moment here on this day 5 years ago, May 1st of 2015. Yours truly, I earned my bachelor's degree from the University of Alabama in journalism with a minor in computing technology. It was an awesome, great night. And in honor of the student and student athletes earning their degrees this weekend, shouts out, props out to you guys. But as always, 205-448-1358, the number to call in to let your voice be heard on the show. 205-448-1358. Got a jam-packed slate of topics to get to. It's going to be awesome. We'll be joined by the lead scouting and recruiting analyst for TDA, Justin Smith, a little later here in the show, but definitely want to hear from you today, so let your voice be heard. We jump into some updates here, and the first one, folks, get ready to pop the bubbly, get ready to pop some champagne. It's football on its way back, and we got some news here from from UA President Dr. Stuart Bell, who was interviewed by CBS 42 on Thursday, and he talked about how for the university, the plan is to have football. Certainly, the plan is to have football for the upcoming season here in Tuscaloosa. Fans will be in the stands, according to Dr. Bell. He mentioned how the school is currently working countlessly on getting ways or providing ways to have the students and the student athletes back on campus, making sure that Bryant-Denny Stadium sanitized, disinfected, cleaned, the dorms disinfected, cleaned, sanitized, just making sure that everything will be ready and prepared to go. The University of Alabama is supposed to be having or scheduled to have its fall classes set up for August the 19th. So Dr. Bell giving his confirmation, giving his assurance, Tide fans, that football will be on the menu for this upcoming season. Still, practice your social distancing, practice, making sure that the hands are getting washed, everything clean, everything sanitized, everything disinfected, because still got to be cautious. But really good news here coming from Dr. Stuart Bell, president of the University of Alabama, when it comes to football. Going on to another update here. How about kudos to head coach Nick Saban, who welcomed a grandson to the family on Monday. His daughter, Kristen Saban Cetus, gave birth to Mr. James Nicholas Cetus at 9 pounds, 12 ounces. Big baby right there. We're talking about possibly the next Alabama linebacker down the road, maybe even the next Alabama head football coach, roaming the sidelines, throwing headsets, breaking headsets, giving those great butt chewings, the works. But right now, Coach Saban, his wife, Miss Terry, just happy to have another grandbaby running around. They already have the granddaughter, and now Kristen has brought them the grandson and James Nicholas Cetus. So kudos to Nick Saban. Another grandbaby to run around and play with. But we get into now, folks, the first topic of conversation on this evening. And Alabama fans, you guys have two questions going into the upcoming season, especially after what happened in the last 2 years. And those questions are, number one, will Alabama return to having a feared, respected, dominant defense? And I'll answer that question on a later show. But the second question is, will the Crimson Tide return to having that power, potent run game? And we're going to answer that right now, because as much as the game is changing, people look at you have to pass the ball more. You have to throw the ball more. You have to be explosive. You have to be dynamic. You've got to score. You are seeing what's going on here in the offensive trajectory of college football. And though that's true, we're seeing some change in the game. We're seeing some differences in the game. But despite all the changes, two of the main constants that happen in football, number one, it's the team that imposes its will, and number two, it's the team that can control the pace and the flow of the game that 9 times out of 10 will win a lot of football games, but not just football games, will win national championships. So this is what Nick Saban is trying to get back to. He knows the game is changing. He knows offenses are taking over. He knows you have to score the football, but he also knows that balance is key. Yes, we want to throw the football. Yes, we want to put points on the board, but we also want to wear down the will of the opposition. We also want to break the opponent's will down, be able to run the football, control the clock, control the possession and the flow and the pace of the football game, which brings us to this thought right here. Alabama can potentially, I see Alabama having 2 1,000-yard rushers, something that it has not had since the 2012 season. And you go back to 2012, just a moment here, the dominance of the offensive line that the Tide had with Jeff Statland as the coach. When you look at guys like DJ Fluker and Barrett Jones, Chance Warmack, guys that were just absolute monsters, James Carpenter as well, on that defensive line, blasting holes, creating running lanes to where the Mark Ingrams to Trent Richardsons, the Eddie Lacy's, those guys were averaging 5 to 6 yards a pop before the first defender could even touch them. And everybody kind of knew that Eddie Lacy would have a 1,000-yard season in 2012 just based off of 2011, even with Trent Richardson setting the single-season rushing mark. Eddie Lacy still had 674 yards on the ground himself. So going into 2012, people thought Lacy would be a 1,000-yard back. It was just, TJ Yeldon, the quiet guy from Daphne High School near the Mobile area. What would he do as a 5-star? And we all saw it happen. He came in, picked up the system quickly, fastly, rapidly, as only Yeldon could, and he was a 1,000-yard rusher in his own right with 12 touchdowns. And Alabama even had sort of a change of pace back behind those two and Kenyon Drake in 2012. But when I look at this season, this is going to be the return of thunder and lightning. Just like Alabama had it in 2012 with Eddie Lacy and TJ Yeldon, it will have thunder and lightning with Najee Harris and Trey Sanders. Najee Harris, everybody knows this guy can be a 1,000-yard back and will be a 1,000-yard back. He put up over 1,000 yards this past season, especially he got turned up down the stretch here from the LSU game throughout the remainder of the year. Najee Harris, 209 carries, 1,224 yards, and 13 touchdowns. He had 6 100-yard games, 4 of those coming against SEC opponents there. So we know what Najee Harris is capable of. When you discuss Trey Sanders is much like TJ Yeldon in a sense of he's got a lot of potential. He's got a lot of ability and capability. A 5-star from the Florida area, went to IMG Academy. And this is somebody that, and I know you, the Alabama fan base, you guys don't like comparisons. He's his own guy. He's his own player. He's his own man. He's his own individual. But I spend countless amount of time talking with hundreds of Crimson Tide fans. And for a lot of you, when I bring up a player to you, the first question that's always thrown at me is, Steven, who does that guy remind you of? What former Alabama player does this particular guy remind you of? And when I discuss or when I dissect Sanders, he doesn't really remind me of any former Alabama player. However, when you dive into the NFL, there are 2 backs that he really pulls things from a size, physicality, toughness, breaking tackles. When he gets into the hole, he does his business. Sanders reminds me a lot of Ezekiel Elliott of the Dallas Cowboys. Sanders listed at 6 feet, 214 pounds. Zeke Elliott, 6 feet, 228 pounds. So you already see the body structure similar right there. When you look at just his speed, his ability to make plays in space, handle the ball in space, eat away the angle away from defenders from trying to tackle him and trip him up, just that ability to be dynamic with the ball in his hands in space, then Sanders reminds me a lot of one Alvin Kamara. So see a lot of Ezekiel Elliott, see a lot of Kamara in his game, and if not for an injury he suffered in fall camp last year in August, Trey Sanders would have taken a lot of carries away from Najee Harris. He would have taken some carries away from Brian Robinson. Every day I was out there in practice in fall camp, I saw something different. One day I'm seeing Trey Sanders, man, look at the speed. The next day I'm like, look at the burst. The next day, look at the acceleration. Then look at the toughness. Look at his ability to break tackles, evade tacklers, spin off guys, using that stiff arm. Look at his ability to catch the ball out the backfield, just make plays. He did something different every single day in the fall camp of 2019 prior to the injury there. So for him, Thunder and Lightning, I concede Najee Harris and Trey Sanders being the two 1,000-yard backs with the 1-2 punch. But then there lies Keenan Robinson. And where Keenan comes in, here comes that changeup, right? Najee's kind of your slide pitch. You know, Trey Sanders is kind of your fastball. Get in there, boom, 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 get it done. But every pitcher needs that great changeup, something that you're not used to. You're not looking forward to seeing it. You don't know when it's coming, but bang, it comes. You're like, what in the heck did that come from? And that's Keenan Robinson. He's that change of pace. He's that changeup. Kind of like what Kenyon Drake was and what Josh Jacobs was. And Keenan Robinson at 5'9", 190 pounds, big-time speed, big-time acceleration. Nick Saban called him the juice man. Not OJ the juice man, the rapper, but Keenan was the actual juice man. He was the guy. He hit the hole, gone. Can't catch him. Holler at your boy, two-stepping down the paint for a touchdown. You knew what Keenan Robinson could do. And he was the guy that had the two longest touchdown runs by an Alabama running back last season, the 74-yard burst to the house against New Mexico State, and also the 38-yard touchdown run, if I'm not mistaken, against Duke that he had. We'll fact check that. But he had two of the longest touchdown runs for an Alabama running back this past season. And Crimson Tide fans were very much so intrigued. They were very much so taken by the speed of one Keenan Robinson. Robinson this past year, 39 carries, 254 yards, 2 touchdowns. He actually led the entire Bama rotation of backs with 6.5 yards per carry. And when I look at Keenan, while Trey and Najee would be Alabama's 1,000-yard rushers, Keenan would fit as the 1,000-yard all-purpose back. Here is somebody that can get you 500 to 600 yards rushing, 150 to 200 yards receiving, and if Coach Saban puts him on kick return, like he did with Kenyon Drake, like he did with Josh Jacobs, like he did with Henry Ruggs, though Ruggs a receiver, not a running back. But the point being, if Saban could put Keenan on kick return, we're looking at somebody that could put 150 to 200 yards on kickoff return. So a 1,000-yard all-purpose back is what I'm seeing here. And a Keenan, that change of pace, that change up, that different feel that will put more frustration, more aggravation on the minds of defenders and defensive coordinators, which brings us to Roydell Williams. Roydell Williams, to me, is the sleeper of the group. We know what Najee Harris can do. We are excited to see what Trey Sanders can do in joining up with Najee. We look at Keenan Robinson as the change of pace back, but Roydell Williams, to me, here is the sleeper. Everyone's excited to see Jace McClellan, and for obvious reasons. Home run hitter, 5-star guy from Texas. Everybody's excited to kind of see what Kyle Edwards can provide, a bigger back from the Louisiana area. But Roydell Williams, to me, the comp I've got for him, for Alabama, is Josh Jacobs. If you watch the tape of Roydell Williams and you watch the tape of Josh Jacobs, it's the exact same back, the exact same person here. Roydell Williams listed at 5'10", 207 pounds. Josh Jacobs, 5'10", 220. So the body structure there, right there around the same line. The young man out of Hueytown High School here in Alabama, 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons in high school for his career. We're looking at 5,929 yards rushing, 92 total touchdowns, 84 rushing scores. And I remember when our own Justin Smith went to see him in his commencement ceremony there, signing his letter of intent. He sat there and told reporters that because he's coming to Alabama, it will be the last time the Crimson Tide will not make the college football playoffs. So Roydell coming in with a boatload of confidence. He's talking about breaking records. He's talking about pushing for a starting position. The main thing here, y'all, he wants the competition. He talked about it. Coming to Bama, there are so many great backs. There's so many great rushers. They're all 4 and 5 stars. The competition makes everybody better. I want to compete. I want the competition. So for a guy already hungry coming in, already wanting the smoke, already wanting the fire, already wanting to be the best, you got to love it there coming from Mr. Williams out of Hueytown High School. So with Trey Sanders, Najee Harris, or Najee Harris, Trey Sanders being the 1-2 punch, being the Thunder and Lightning, I see 2 1,000-yard backs for the Crimson Tide, with Keelan Robinson being the change-up and Roydell Williams being the sleeper. But folks, that takes us to our first break here on In My Own Words, the podcast. Don't touch that dial. Just getting started on a Friday. When we get back, we tackle your phone calls, tweets, text messages, thoughts, questions, and concerns after this.
Every sports fan deserves the proper representation. Whitwell Sports introduces to you the Title Towel. Wave that Title Towel in the air like you just don't care, in support of Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Only $9.99 and it lasts a lifetime. Head on over to whitwellsports.com and get your Title Towel today. Touchdown Alabama Magazine is Alabama football's premier publication. A subscription to Touchdown Alabama Magazine is the perfect gift for any Alabama fan. For exclusive news and information, recruiting updates, a free annual print magazine, and more, go to touchdownalabama.com and click join. Only $5.95 per month, or pay $49.95 for a full year subscription. That's a saving of almost $22. Make sure to subscribe before it's too late and get our new freshly printed end of the year magazine issue. Go to touchdownalabama.com today and roll Tide.
We are back in, rocking and rolling, folks, on a Friday, ready to get it popping off on the hottest show on the streets, the best form of Alabama football news, notes, and information in My Own Words, the podcast, with yours truly, Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama Magazine. Hopefully everybody's doing well out there. And as always, Tide fans, if you are new to the channel, new to the network and the brand here, be sure to smash the subscribe button. Hit the subscribe button and turn on your notifications so that you can get all the updates and alerts on your Crimson Tide. But it's your time, Bama fans. 205-448-1358, the number to call in to let your voice be heard. 205-448-1358. We already got my man Waylon already locked and loaded. Brother, what's going on, Waylon?
It is fabulous Friday. I tell you what, Stephen, after you and John gave me that slight Red Fox heart attack Wednesday, I don't know what I'm going to do. Remember, Willie 351 said 15-0. He's rolling up in there on you. It ain't going to be a drive-by. It's going to be a drive-in. What's going on with TDA?
A drive-in, Waylon?
It's going from a drive-by to a drive-in. I ain't messing with Willie. You're going to have to deal with him. He's all you, bro.
You know what? Hey, Waylon, I appreciate all the support, man.
Got to give it to you, man. I saw that number 6 kid there running when I was waiting to get on the phone there. Sort of reminded sort of myself there back in the high school day. Looking good there, wasn't he? Looking real good.
I mean, Roydell Williams to me is the sleeper. I know Jace McClellan's going to have something to say as a 5-star. I know Kyle Edwards is going to have something to say as a 3-star guy. But Roydell, when you get a hometown, a home state guy to come to the university, and he wants the competition, he's ready for the competition, and how distinctly he just stared at the camera and went, Alabama will not miss the college football playoff again because I'm coming through here. You got to love a young man with that type of confidence out the gate.
Yeah, he was looking good on the film there, no doubt about it. He could really run the ball there, getting up down the field. I tell you, I don't know how many more running backs we're going to need in the running back room. We're going to need a few more on the defensive side of the room, I think, here. But, I was thinking there Wednesday, I've always been back to 92, but I went back to the Alabama-Georgia game, and I sort of named this one, I think, the changing of the guard, which meant from Mr. Hurts to Tua there. So I've got a sort of poem about the Georgia game and playing Clemson before we played Georgia. So I guess we'll end on that being our 3 hearty chuckles for the weekend. And just tell me when you're ready, Stephen. I'll see if I can let it rip.
Man, go ahead and let that thing fall, Wayne.
All right, hold on to your hat. Don't let Willie drive by. All right, here we go. Roses are reds, violets are blues. Auburn this year have done their best to take Alabama out of the news. Clemson rolled into the Superdome, all cocked and ready. After Alabama got done with Clemson, Dabo looked pretty unsteady. All right, now to the title game. Bama did roll. They took it to Georgia blow by blow. It boiled down to overtime to a change of guard. A man named Tua marched onto the yard. He threw the ball down the field to a receiver named Smitty, who walked into the end zone. Oh, it looked so pretty. Now, it's all in the past. The story has been told how Kirby Smart lost the natty in the Mercedes-Benz National Championship Game Bowl. All right. I hope everybody has a good weekend. If a good Lord's willing, we'll be back on Monday. Willie, don't drive by there, man. You'll get in trouble. I'm out of here, Steven.
Appreciate it, Waylon. You be good, man. Always great to start off a Friday and all of his shows with Waylon and his poetry. John, what we got in the chat line, man?
Hey man, Waylon need to write a book. That was a book right there, like some Dr. Seuss stuff. But Dr. Seuss stuff. Yeah, we got a question from Nathan D. He says, "Don't hate me for this question, but do you think Alabama would be hurting itself if it doesn't work in Trey Sanders and even one of the freshman running backs this season?"
I wouldn't say Alabama would be hurting itself, but at the same time, Bama's known for playing freshmen. Nick Saban has talked about it. They're not afraid of playing freshmen. You watch the 2018 title game that Waylon just referenced there in the poem. There was about 8 to 9 freshmen on the field in that game, including Tua and Smitty, working that chemistry there at the end. So I definitely see Trey Sanders getting worked in. He will be the second 1,000-yard back. I can see all 3 freshmen, getting some work in there. So Saban has never been one to shy away from putting young guys out there.
There's Samuel H. William Wilkinson asks, "What else does Mechie have to do to get the praise as wide receiver number 3?"
What else does Mechie have to do? And we had, Matt Cadell on here to talk about that on Wednesday. Just having more consistency day in and day out. I mean, the body structure is similar to Calvin Ridley. The route running is just about similar, if not all the way. He's got good hands. Now, he had to trade his jersey. He started off with number 3, but he had to switch to number 8. But if he can stay consistent on the field, not drop passes, rise up when your number is called, work back to the quarterback, just make plays more times than not, Mechie will be fine. But the beauty of all of this, Sam and John over here, is when you have so many receivers, this is a good problem to have because the competition is going to breed whoever's the best. They're going to float to the top.
All right, and Jay Lee asks, when do you think our recruiting is going to pick back up?
That will be the good question, and we're going to have our man Justin Smith, the lead scouting and recruiting analyst for TDA, coming on here in the next segment to talk about some recruiting. I know Justin and I we spoke quite a bit today prior to the show, so it's going to be fun to pick Justin's brain and figure out what he's been told, the nuggets he's been gathering up. So y'all continue to hang on. The next segment, we're going to have Justin, but as we get in here to a interesting topic here, how about the job that Henry Ruggs has been doing on the charity community service side of things? Henry Ruggs III, after being drafted to the Las Vegas Raiders, number 12 overall on last week, the first receiver off the board, he has these limited edition T-shirts, the Henry Ruggs III shirt, and with each purchase of those shirts, some of the proceeds will go to feeding hungry families in the southern Nevada area. Along with that, proceeds will also go to the Rod Scott Foundation in Montgomery. Ruggs, so continuing to commemorate the memory, of his best friend, Rod Scott, who passed away in that car crash in 2016. But before I continue, we actually have another call in the queue. You're live here on In My Own Words. We're getting it popping on a Friday. What's going on?
What's going on, Steven? How you doing?
Man, I cannot complain, man. It's Friday. Governor Kay Ivey has lifted the curfew ban, off the state there, so I can finally go into the grocery store a little bit more.
Oh yeah, man. Make sure you you wear your mask, man. We can't have you getting sick.
Will do. You know what? I've actually stocked up. I went from 5 to 10 now.
Okay. Yeah, man. Get them gloves, do all of it, man. We need our Alabama fit. But man, I had a question for you that, I don't see a lot of people talking about Talia or Paul Tyson anymore. It's pretty much everybody kind of has it down that it's either gonna be Bryce Young or Matt Jones, right? I'm thinking if I'm those guys, I'm taking that personally. They've been in the system, longer than Bryce Young. He may be he could be the second coming to Tua. But if you're Talia with all the talent that he has, or Paul Tyson, how would you feel about that? Do you think those guys have any kind of a chance to win the job this year? Is it just pretty much a foregone conclusion? There's one or the other two. From what you're seeing, what you've seen on the field, like, are they that far behind that they can't catch up to Matt Jones and take that position?
Well, right now and this is why not having the spring hurts, because if you would have had the spring, Talia would have had a much better opportunity to see where does he stack up on the roster. Because there's no spring, he doesn't know where he stacks up, and with the coronavirus right now, with the experience that Mac Jones has on the field and the games he got a chance to play in, and with the knowledge of the system that he has entering his 4th year, it's Mac Jones' job to lose at this point. It's his job. For Bryce Young, we got to see what can he do, what can he provide, upon him getting here. For Talia and Paul, it's a fight. I mean, I don't see neither of those two starting. I don't see neither of those two taking the starting job, but it depends on if Mac Jones plays well, really well this season, goes off to the NFL draft after this season, then more of that picture can come into play. Both guys, Talia and Paul, have been doing well, but Mac Jones this season is the starting quarterback.
Got you. So they are. I mean, but you think it's more talent or is just experience? Like, Matt Jones has the experience, but sometimes the talent can catch up to experience. If they are as talented as they were thought to be, coming out of high school.
Talent's there, but Nick Saban likes to roll with that experience, and Mac Jones has that. But this is why football is exciting. I can't wait to see what all boils down here in August. But man, we appreciate the call, man. Keep listening to us.
Definitely, thanks.
We're going to go to our next break here on the show. Continue to light us up here in the chat line and in the call-in queue. But upon our return, we sit down with my man Justin Smith, the lead scouting and recruiting analyst for TDA, to talk about what's going on with Alabama and the 2021 recruiting cycle right after this.
If you want delicious home-style cooking, sushi, and hibachi, check out Otoro Hibachi in the University Mall in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. At home and you can't get away from the TV because the Crimson Tide is about to score? Don't worry, delivery is also available through Waitr and Crimson2go. That's Otoro Hibachi in the University Mall in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And make sure you let them know the good folks at Touchdown Alabama sent you. Touchdown Alabama Magazine is Alabama football's premier publication. A subscription to Touchdown Alabama Magazine is the perfect gift for any Alabama fan. For exclusive news and information, recruiting updates, a free annual print magazine, and more, go to touchdownalabama.com and click join. Only $5.95 per month or pay $49.95 for a full year subscription. That's a saving of almost $22. Make sure to subscribe before it's too late and get our new freshly printed end of the year magazine issue. Go to touchdownalabama.com TideTowelAlabama.com today and roll Tide.
Back into the action here, folks, on a Friday in My Own Words, the podcast. On a show on the streets with yours truly, Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama Magazine. But we go to the In My Own Words hotline where we pick up the lead scouting and recruiting analyst, the boots on the ground, Justin Smith of Touchdown Alabama Magazine. Justin, what's going on, man? Hope you're doing well.
I'm doing pretty good, Stephen. How about you?
Man, I cannot complain, man. It's a Friday, and I get a chance to talk some recruiting here with my main man. So, Justin, big news happened today, according to the Alabama football Twitter page, university here. The SEC has suspended all coaching clinics and in-person camps through July 31st. So, with that happening, how does this affect Alabama on this 2021 recruiting trail? I know you and I talked about this prior to the show, but how does, suspending these in-person camps affect Bama in recruiting now?
Well, it has a huge impact. As most of Alabama fans know, Alabama's football camps, the Nick Saban football camps, are a great chance for Alabama to see guys who are underrated. Of course, to get a chance to further evaluate guys who they have not seen in person in action, and they also get to work out with some of the guys they have verbally committed. You want to get a chance to build that chemistry up, get a chance to know those guys better in the competitive environment. Alabama is going to miss out on all of that, but so are the other SEC schools. It's not something that's just solely on Alabama. The rest of the SEC has to deal with this as well. So it has that impact. Alabama will not be able to possibly find a gym or underrated gym when their guys have those camps to get a chance to camp at the University of Alabama. Alabama won't be able to evaluate guys more. And sometimes Alabama does this when they really want to look at a kid on a camp day. You get them on campus for an unofficial visit. And Nick Saban and some members of his coaching staff actually take those guys and have like a private camp where you get a chance to test out 5 to 10 guys privately and really get a chance to know those guys more. You will not get a chance to do that, and I think that's going to be a huge hit in terms of not being able to evaluate the guys in person.
Now, one of the guys, Justin, that our Alabama fans are really concerned about right now, it kind of took him for a loop there, was one Dylan Brooks, the 6'5", 240-pound linebacker from Handley High School in Roanoke. And he chose to go with Jeremy Pruitt chose to commit to Tennessee over Alabama. How much does this hurt, the Tide, seeing how Brooks, big-time talent, big-time athlete, does this hurt? Does this not hurt? What does this mean, Dylan Brooks choosing the Volunteers over the Tide?
Well, I think you can look at Dylan Brooks' decision in a lot of different ways. I don't think it hurts Alabama in terms of depth. I think they picked up a lot of outside linebackers in our 2020 recruiting class with the guys that they signed. So I don't think it hurt Alabama in depth. I think it hurt Alabama in terms of Dylan Brooks being a guy who I think really can fit inside of Alabama's scheme as an outside linebacker, a long, leafy kid, an athletic kid who really likes to get after the quarterback, and Alabama wants that at the outside linebacker position. So in terms of a kid with a lot of potential who can really fit into Alabama's scheme, it is a huge hit. But Alabama did landed a large group of outside linebackers in the 2020 class as well. But with Alabama's head coach Nick Saban and his coaching staff wanting to make sure you keep your top talent home, I think it hurts Alabama in terms of that as well. But this is a guy who has been on record saying he wants to play early. And when you look at Alabama's current outside linebackers on their roster, it's going to be very difficult for a freshman to come in. But I don't think, in my mind, personally, in my opinion, I don't feel Alabama will just cool off on him just yet. Alabama has proven that they will rely on freshmen if they are ready to come in and play, and I think they're going to really push that on Brooks, in my mind, tell him, if you come in ready to play, you're going to have the opportunity to play.
Folks, if you're just tuning in to the show here on a Friday, we've got Justin Smith, the lead scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama Magazine, on the line talking some 2021 recruiting here. And so Justin, what represents, or what are the top positions of need for the Crimson Tide for this cycle?
I think you could say the offensive line position will be a huge position for Alabama. I think the inside linebacker position will be a more intriguing position. I think the wide receiver position will be an interesting one for Alabama in the 2021 recruiting class, just based off the fact that Jaylen Waddle will could leave at the end of next season. Devontae Smith will most likely leave. Tyrell Shavers will have the possibility of leaving. I know Slade Bolden could have that possibility as well. I know he's not expected to have a huge season, but what if those guys do go on to have a huge season? Alabama's coaching staff has to look at that being a possibility, so they have to look at that from a recruiting standpoint as well. So I think the wide receiver position will be a pretty interesting position for Alabama. The defensive back position has been a pretty interesting position for Alabama on a recruiting cycle for the last couple of recruiting cycles, picking up 4 to 5 guys over the last 3 cycles. So those are the positions I feel Alabama will focus on during the 2021 recruiting cycle.
So when you look at trying to find a replacement for Dylan Brooks here, who does Alabama see? Who are the Crimson Tide? Who's the Crimson Tide targeting and trying to find somebody that can fill in that spot that it thought it would have with Dylan Brooks?
I think they have always kept their options open. Dylan Brooks wasn't like their main got-to-get guy at the outside linebacker position. They have always kept those options open. And just looking at some guys who could fill their role, they can go directly inside the state of Alabama State, inside the state of Alabama. When you look at a guy like Jeremiah Williams, a 4-star outside linebacker out of Ramsey High School in Ramsey, Alabama, a guy who Alabama offered before they hosted him for a junior day event, for their first junior day event. His teammates were one of Alabama's top defensive line targets, and Tim Kennan III. I think he really likes Alabama. He really respects what Alabama has done. And Alabama took a while to get him an offer, but they stayed in contact. They hosted him before. They offered him a couple of times. So Alabama has a decent relationship with Jeremiah Williams, and I know they want to keep their relationship going moving forward. So Jeremiah Williams is a guy. Ian Jackson, a linebacker out of Prattville High School in Prattville, Alabama, another in-state guy who could possibly fit the outside linebacker role. So Alabama still has a couple of linebackers still on the board, but I think Dylan Brooks is just one of those guys they did not want to miss out on in terms of him fitting into their scheme as an outside linebacker.
We're live here with Justin Smith. If you're just tuning into the show, hottest show on the streets here on a Friday, Justin Smith, the lead scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama Magazine, talking Crimson Tide for this 2021 class here. And So Justin, just getting back to the communication, because I know the last time you were here, you talked about how the coaching staff is in constant communication. They're talking to these guys, their top targets every day, sometimes 2 and 3 times a day. When you speak to these young athletes, is that communication still there? Is Alabama still making that move to make sure that the guys they want, they know that Alabama's valuing them? Is that communication still strong there?
Alabama's still having that same amount of communication when it comes to Nick Saban, FaceTiming recruits, calling recruits, different members of Alabama's coaching staff, reaching out to recruits. For example, Ian Jackson, when I had him on the process, he told me to talk to several members of Alabama's coaching staff, some offensive coaches and some defensive coaches. So it's really a team effort when it comes to Alabama's coaching staff and them reaching out to recruits at this very moment. So they are trying to virtually recruit as hard as they can. I think they're in sort of an unusual position, as Miller Moss, one of Alabama's top quarterback targets in the 2021 recruiting class, told me on the process a couple of episodes back that Alabama's coaching staff is taking a bit of a slower approach in their 2021 recruiting class. And I think they wanted to take this approach, take a little step back, but they still wanted to sign guys before the early signing period. Get guys verbally committed before the early signing period, but they wanted to take a little slow, get a chance to evaluate guys, but they did not expect COVID-19, the coronavirus, to have such a huge impact on recruiting. They were not able to host guys during the spring, and now it looks like they're not going to be able to host guys for camps during the summer. It remains to be seen if they are even going to be able to host guys for visits during the summer, as the dead period is expected to go through May 31st. And if that dead period is extended past May 31st, Alabama may not get a chance to host any guys for visits. So in terms of that, I think Alabama's coaching staff is really going to amp up the way that they virtually recruit.
Well, hopefully soon the Crimson Tide will be able to get back on the right track, gaining that momentum on the recruiting trail. But he's Justin Smith, ladies and gentlemen, the lead scouting and recruiting analyst for TDA, on the ground, checking out and scouting these young athletes. Justin, as always, we appreciate the nuggets, the words of wisdom, and the news on the recruiting front. Man, you be safe, be good.
Stephen.
Always awesome having our own Justin Smith here giving us the nuggets, the lowdown in recruiting. But we're going to take another break here on the show. Upon our return, we go back to your phone calls. Bring them in. Your phone calls, your thoughts, your questions, text messages, and concerns after this.
T-Town Menswear in the University Mall in Tuscaloosa. Touchdown Alabama Magazine is Alabama football's premier publication. A subscription to Touchdown Alabama Magazine is the perfect gift for any Alabama fan. For exclusive news and information, recruiting updates, a free annual print magazine, and more, go to touchdownalabama.com and click join. Only $5.95 per month or pay $49.95 for a full year subscription. That's a saving of almost $22. Make sure to subscribe before it's too late and get our new freshly printed end of the year magazine issue. Go to touchdownalabama.com today and roll Tide.
It's Friday, and you're spending time here with yours truly, Touchdown Alabama Magazine, also the man John Ivory, in My Own Words, the podcast, coming to you as always from Tuscaloosa. And folks, if you're new to the network, new to the channel, new to the brand, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications so that you can be up to date and have the latest coverage, news, alerts, updates on your Alabama Crimson Tide. But it is your time, Bama fans. 205-448-1358. The number to call in and let your voice be heard on the show. Create that dialogue, 205-448-1358. You can also text with that number and leave a voicemail with that number as well. But, John, what we got in that YouTube chat line over there?
So Spencer Reevely asked, he said, Stephen M., cut to the real deal. Who do you think will transfer and why?
Who do I think will transfer? That's a good question. Who do I think will transfer? Let's see here. Who do I think would transfer? This is because Alabama is trying to get down to that 85-man roster spot. I think Talia Tagovailoa will transfer, honestly, because he's facing an uphill battle. He's facing a battle that's harder than what his brother Tua faced. So I see Leah transferring out of here. That's one. You could potentially see Brian Robinson possibly transfer out of here if they do not make a move to put him at H-back or fullback. Brian Robinson could be out of here because you've got so many other backs on the roster that can do so many things, and people want to see a lot of these other guys. So that's just two off the top of my head. Talia Tagovailoa and Brian Robinson just off the bat right there. But going into now the move of Alabama President Dr. Stuart Bell in him stating how Crimson Tide will have a football season this year. And this is awesome, even though we all want to stay cautious. We all want to stay, clean. We all want to make sure that we're not spreading the coronavirus any more than what's already going on. We don't want to do things too soon. But I've always been an advocate of you never know what you are thoroughly invested in until it's no longer there, until it's removed from you, or until it's threatened to be removed from you. And when you look at football here for just a moment, everybody was excited for the spring season. Everybody was excited for just athletics, period. People were excited for spring football. People were excited to watch the NBA playoffs, excited for the Women's College World Series. I know I was excited to see, the College World Series in terms of baseball. People were ready for MLB, the pro baseball season. Everybody was ready to see some type of live sporting event. And sports has a way of bringing everybody together. It's the conversation at the water cooler. It's the icebreaker. It's the conversation starter. You even have our first responders, our police force, our firefighters, our medical staff, each and every last one of those professions, though they are on the front line helping us get through day by day of this global pandemic. When they get home from work, they look forward to turn that TV on, watching a basketball game, turning on that TV, watching a football game, a baseball game, because it's peaceful for them. It's tranquility for them. It's a state of, it's therapy for them. It's therapeutic. So when they get home and they're not able to watch a live sporting event, it kind of bothers them, because I'm not saying that we are, wrapped up, tied up, and tangled up in athletics, but at the same time, it was something that became a fabric of our life as the everyday human being. We enjoy watching sports. We learn from watching sports. There are so many life lessons you can take from, the world of athletics, and not having that, it really kind of set us back a little bit. That's why people were excited to watch the NFL draft on last week. Yes, it was the first ever virtual draft, and you didn't see guys live on location in Las Vegas. You didn't see guys live on location, shoving Commissioner Goodell, jumping on top of him, palling around with him. You didn't see live on location where the person goes, where Goodell goes, and with the first overall pick, so-and-so selects, Jim Jones, and Jim Jones' grandmother going, "Oh, Jesus, my baby just got drafted. Glory, my baby." You didn't see all of that in live action. You didn't see a lot of the raw emotions live on set in Las Vegas, but still, it was a live event. It was an event that, over 20 million people saw, and it was football. People wanted to see football, any type of sporting event that you guys were like, it's about darn time. I'm driving myself mad over here because of this pandemic, so it's about time we got back to some football. And the same thing with this Last Dance documentary, the Jordan documentary for basketball. We're seeing basketball. We're seeing sports. We're seeing an event. I get to go inside real, authentic Jordan. I've never seen this before. I get to go inside real, authentic Pippen, real, authentic Rodman, real, authentic Phil Jackson. I get to see the turmoil that team went through in order to get the six NBA titles. So being able to have those live sporting events, having athletics, it's a big deal. So for us here as the American people, like I said, although we don't like to consider ourselves being just all about sports, being just all about athletics, it's like cotton. It's the fabric of our life. And when you snatch that, when you remove that from us, when it got suspended in the month of March due to the global crisis, people are like, well, dang, what am I going to talk about? What am I going to spend time debating with my friends about? What am I going to spend time doing at the water cooler on my lunch break? Like, what am I going to do? There's nothing to really converse. There's nothing to speak on. There's nothing to have a debate about. There's not a conversation going on here. So having Dr. Bell make that announcement on Thursday about how, Alabama football, there will be a football season here in Tuscaloosa, that's a big deal. And seeing him take the proactive steps toward making sure Bryant-Denny Stadium clean, disinfectant, good to go. The dormitories the same way, making sure the students and the student athletes get back to campus in good time so that we can have the practices, we can have the fall camp, we can have the games. President Bell understands, hey, we don't want to rush these things, but most importantly, we want to get back to a sense of normalcy, and having sports, having football definitely does that. We're going to go to another break here on the show, but upon our return, we tackled the Alabama group at wide receiver, and why will Jaylen Waddle turn up and lead that group this season? We'll touch it up right after this.
If you're an avid Alabama Crimson Tide fan and you love to flaunt it, then show your Alabama Crimson Tide support by grabbing the All-Bama sneakers. They feature bold Crimson Tide graphics, so no one will be able to question where your allegiance lies. When you add these sweet sneakers to your Alabama Crimson Tide collection, go to STSfootwear.com and use the code TDAlabama for $15 off your purchase. That's code TDAlabama for $15 off your purchase. Go to STSfootwear.com and get your All-Bama sneakers today. Touchdown Alabama Magazine is Alabama football's premier publication. A subscription to Touchdown Alabama Magazine is the perfect gift for any Alabama fan. For exclusive news and information, recruiting updates, a free annual print magazine, and more, go to touchdownalabama.com and click join. Only $5.95 per month or pay $49.95 for a full year subscription. That's a saving of almost $22. Make sure to subscribe before it's too late and get our new freshly printed end of the year magazine issue. Go to touchdownalabama.com today and roll Tide.
We about to dive into this group of wide receivers here for the Crimson Tide on In My Own Words, the podcast with yours truly, Stephen Smith of Touchdown Alabama Magazine. And this group here at wide receiver, Jerry Jeudy gone, Henry Ruggs gone, both of those two in the National Football or in the NFL now. But the group coming back, really, really good group. When you look at Devontae Smith, Jaylen Waddle, it's going to be fun to watch who becomes the number 3 guy in this rotation because you got a lot of guys that possess a boatload of talent. But Jaylen Waddle to me will be the leader of this group. He will lead Alabama football in receiving for the 2020 season, and here's why. As good as Devontae Smith is, and Devontae Smith is elite. He's marquee. He's a headline guy. Cam Sims put me on Smitty in 2017 when I was out there baking in the hot sun in that August fall camp practice. Cam Sims put me on Smitty. So we know for a jump. We know from a jump what Smitty does, what Smitty is capable of doing. I know a lot of guys out there talk about, well, Devontae still has to fill out his body. He's still too small. At some point, you are what you are. He's 6'1", 175 pounds. He doesn't mind blocking, putting that 175 pounds on you and blocking you out the play. Great route runner, big time hands, strong speed, and big time playmaker. So we know what Devontae Smith can do. But when you look at Jaylen Waddle, you got to keep him on the field. You got to have him with the ball in his hands. He's just a bona fide playmaker. And I look at it like this. Since 2017, of the young receivers, there's always kind of been this sort of chain of command, right? 2017, and that was the team that had Calvin Ridley, Robert Foster, Cam Sims, all experienced guys, and of course, Ruggs, Jeudy, and Devontae Smith. Henry Ruggs led that team in touchdown receptions with 6, and he was the one that helped start the comeback against Georgia in the national championship game, catching the first touchdown pass from Tua Tagovailoa. So Ruggs started this. And in 2018, here comes Jeudy going, hold up now, partner. I'm a South Florida kid. I come from the same pipeline as Calvin Ridley and Amari Cooper. Give me that baton, bro. Give me that. You ain't toting that thing right. So Jeudy takes the baton, and in 2018, he goes bonkers. 68 catches, leads the team. 1,315 receiving yards, 14 touchdowns. Fred Biletnikoff Award winner, consensus All-American. Scored one of the 2 critical touchdowns in the second half against Georgia in the SEC title game, helping Alabama win 35-28. But even after what Jeudy did, here comes Devontae Smith going, nah, bruh, I'm from Louisiana. I'm from the easy. I'm from the dirty. I'm from when cornbread and biscuits grow on trees. Let me show y'all how it's really done. And Devontae Smith grabs the baton, and he leads the team in receiving yards this past season with 1,256 and touchdowns with 14 and yards per game with 96.6. He had 2 200-yard performances roasting both Ole Miss and LSU. But despite all that, here comes Jaylen Waddle. Here comes Waddle Baby. And Waddle Baby is saying, Jeudy, love you, bruh, you good. Ruggs, love you, bruh, you good. Smitty, I'm still here with you, bruh, love you, you good. But let's just call a spade a spade. I'm better than all of y'all. I am better than every single last one of you. Jaylen Waddle was saying, I'm from the state of Friday Night Lights. I'm from Texas. I'm going to get this thing done. It is my turn. Jaylen Waddle was saying this season, it is my turn. I'm about to lead this group in receiving. And another reason why it is Jaylen Waddle's turn, Waddle and Mac Jones have a connection. They got a serious vibe here. And Of the 6 touchdowns that Waddle had a season ago, 3 of those came from, of course, Mac Jones in the Iron Bowl against those Auburn Tigers, and he caught them in a variety of ways, whether those were on post patterns, whether they were on slant routes. Jones under serious pressure, he just throws the ball up in the back of the end zone, giving Waddle a chance to jump up like a 5'11" pogo stick and bring the ball in for a catch. Those touchdowns came in a variety of ways. But just like John Parker Wilson had a vibe with Julio Jones, just like Greg McElroy had a vibe with Julio Jones. A.J. McCarron, he liked Amari Cooper. He liked Christian Jones. He liked DeAndre White. But who did A.J. McCarron have that vibe with? Of course, he had it with Kevin Norwood, the man from Mississippi, the Tiger Killer. He had that vibe with the boy Kevin Norwood. Blake Sims had that vibe with Amari Cooper. It was, look, man, love you, DeAndre White, love you, Christian Jones, but if Coop ain't open, forget it. I'm pulling this ball down. I'm trucking it down the field. That was Blake Sims. He had that vibe with Coop. When you look at Jacob Coker and Jalen Hurts, they had that vibe with Calvin Ridley. Though they appreciate the other guys, the vibe was with Calvin Ridley. Probably the only outlier of this group of quarterbacks was Tua. I mean, Tua had a vibe with everybody. He could gel with Smitty. He gelled with Jerry Jeudy. He gelled with Henry Ruggs. He gelled with Jaylen Waddle. Tua was kind of just the outlier of the group. But for the most part, all of the quarterbacks of the Nick Saban era at Alabama, they had that one receiver they really gelled well with. They broke bread with. They sat down at the kitchen table and was like, hey, man, pass the stuffing. Hey, bro, pass the chicken. Hey, man, you got the slide the mashed potatoes over here, man. Slide the potatoes over here. So they had that common entity. They had that common goal. They had that unison. And when I look at Mac Jones and Waddle, they have that unison. They had it in practice to where when Jones would throw the ball, Waddle's not dropping it. He's catching passes, whether it's backwards, forward, sideways. He's catching the football. He's bursting up and down the field. Jones has that ball right where Waddle wants it every single time. I go back to that 2018 season here for just a moment. If you remember the game between the Tide and University of Louisiana Lafayette, I think the ball was on the 6-yard line, if I'm not mistaken. Mac Jones enters the game, and he throws what's supposed to be a 5-yard little skinny slant pattern to Waddle. Waddle makes the catch, puts on the turbo boost, and bye-bye, baby! Waddle went 94 yards to the house, the second longest touchdown pass in a single game in Crimson Tide history. So Waddle and Mac Jones have a connection, and they're ready to put that thing on display. Smitty will get his. Devontae Smith will get his. He'll have a season where he'll have 50 to 60 catches, a good between 800 to 1,000 yards receiving. He'll have about 7 to 10 touchdowns. He'll put together the finishing touches, not only on a great career, but to be a first-round draft pick. But I just look at Jaylen Waddle. It's his time. He has seen Henry Ruggs lead in something. He saw the likes of Jerry Jeudy lead in something. He saw Devontae Smith lead in something. And Waddle was looking around like, now it is my time to lead in something from the wide receiver perspective. This is my moment. So keep your eyes on Jaylen Waddle leading Alabama at that wide receiver position this season. But in terms of sleepers here, in terms of sleepers at wide receiver, keep your eyes on Xavier Williams. Now, a lot of people talk about Ziggy Williams, another Florida product, but Ziggy at 6'1", 195 pounds. He went off in an A-Day game a couple of years back. Guy's got great hands, good speed, tremendous playmaking ability. Now, my one knock on Ziggy is he kind of goes too fast and coming in and out of his breaks sometimes. He's got to control his body, got to control the footwork, but a guy that, to me, reminds me a little bit of Ardarius Stewart. So keep your eyes on Xavier Williams. This could be the guy, sleeper, could be a potential breakout guy, but Jaylen Waddle will lead this team in receiving. But Alabama fans, you're looking forward to seeing the best in news, notes, information, and coverage on your Crimson Tide. It's simple. All you got to do is download the Touchdown Alabama Magazine app. And you can get this from the iPhone App Store, if you're rocking Team Apple, Google Play Store if you just so happen to have the Android phone. For the podcast options, if your audio listening pleasures are iTunes or Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, Overcast.fm, TuneIn Radio, or iHeartRadio, we got you covered. Also, remember to hit that subscribe button on the YouTube channel and turn on those notifications so that you can have the best in news, notes, and information covering your Crimson Tide. If the good and gracious Lord sees fit, I will return on Monday giving you Bama football. But as always, folks, husbands, love your wives. Wives, appreciate, value those husbands. Children, still find those ways. Still find those ways to legitimately not be bored. Get you those 3 hearty meals a day, those 3 great laughs a day. Protect yourself. Protect the loved ones around you. Until next time, folks, I'm your man, Stephen M. Smith, and you've been listening to In My Own Words.